Are you looking for more leads from not that much more effort? Well, in this podcast, you're going to learn the following things: how to train your techs and your staff to look for more leads, how to diversify your lead generation strategy, and the ground game, digital game, and special ops marketing strategy. Okay, YouTubers, to get notified of our upcoming podcasts and videos, do yourself a favor, smash that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and please share this video with someone that you think would get a benefit from it. Enjoy the show. Hello, listeners and viewers. Welcome back to the Sideshed podcast. My name is Matt Jones, and before I jump into this episode, I just wanted to make a quick announcement to our audience from all over the world. At Tradie Web Guys, we are running a promotion until the end of June where we are giving away free $5,500 trade business websites. There is a catch. You need to be the right type of business. However, if you are a trade business and you are either in a growth phase or you are moving into a growth phase, then there is a very good chance that you are going to qualify for that. So head across to tradie.wiki/free. That's tradie.wiki/free. Fill in the form there, watch the video, and we look forward to chatting to you. Let's jump right in. Ryan, welcome back to the Sideshed podcast.
Glad to be here with you, brother.
Good to have you. For your listeners and viewers out there, Ryan was with us in episode 212, 213, 214, where we did a little mini series called How to Grow 30% Year Over Year with Predictability. And I've actually reached out to the boys and asked them to come back on the show to talk a little bit more into the arena of sales based on conversations that we've had from both people within our community and clients especially. A lot of the, Ryan, I know you know this because I've already spoken to you about it, but a lot of our audience and community, they're looking for ways that they can empower their technicians, their team, their CSRs, the whole shebang, themselves, in truth, as to how they can be better at sales. And when I say better at sales, I don't necessarily mean pushy, but just bringing an awareness into that space. Because I think very often, and I know because I've been there myself, you get in this cadence of going out and doing the thing without looking, beyond, what those initial expectations might be. You inevitably end up leaving a lot of money on the table. So I know you guys are great at this. I know this series we did before, Ryan, was awesome, very well received. So again, that was 212, 13, and 14 for you guys that want to go back and check it out. There'll be links in the show notes, by the way. But between now and then, you've got Chris on board. So welcome, Chris. It's your first time, Sideshed Virgin. Give us a little bit of a spiel as your involvement with the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very happy to be here. I love Australia. I have heaps of love for Australia. It's my favorite Australian word. So Ryan and I connected a while back because I am focused on the residential market, and Ryan and I really have a lot of the same core beliefs around personal excellence and how we show up and consultative selling. And I think a lot of his expertise on a technical sense drifts towards the commercial side. Works with tons of residential guys too, but when I came in, I actually completed his program, and I said, wow, this is really good stuff, but I think we can add some more tactics and techniques that are more focused on the residential market. And he was like, yeah, Chris, that sounds great. Like, what can we do? Right. And then it just kind of took off from there. So for me personally, I run my own construction business as well. Like yourself, Matt, like a lot of the listeners on the podcast. And I've been in the industry for over a decade. I've coached, I've worked with a bunch of entrepreneurs, salespeople, et cetera. So working with Sales Transformation Group is a great platform to get that out to everybody, because I love being in the residential space. I couldn't imagine anything else. And I think there's a lot of opportunity and potential if people just know how to harness it properly.
Sure. Yeah. And I know a lot of the sales kind of has a bit of a dirty connotation to it. I've been in so many of those training programs over the years with different, well, in truth, most of them were out of the US, but it was that real pushy sort of style of selling. And I feel like that's, so far dead. It's never played well with me on a ethical level, I think, and I think there's a lot of people out there that have probably seen this and they resonate with that. And I like the style that you guys have, because I know it's not really that pushiness. It's more about, well, let's just present people with options and make sure the team are doing the right things and asking the right questions. So I'm definitely looking forward to diving into this series. Ryan, give us a bit of a spiel on the sales transformation group.
Yeah, so glad to be back. We're a sales growth and transformation platform focused on the trades. So typically, if somebody works with us, they're struggling with not having a defined sales process, or they're frustrated with the ups and downs of revenue, or salespeople not being able to close. So the owners have to do all the selling. Perhaps they're stuck and their salespeople aren't selling value, or their sales manager is not really managing. There's just kind of a lot of issues holding back growth that can be solved with really good, sales development in their organization, whether it's personnel, recruiting, process, culture. And so, by and large, we think that the trades is an amazing industry to, create, wealth as owners, even in salespeople, to leave legacy, to make an impact. I mean, I just love this industry. My parents were contractors, and I saw them really struggle through the recession, and it just kind of impacted me deeply, and said, like, I want to do something about this. And so I kind of went more the route of helping the industry with things like sales training and coaching and consulting and culture. And a lot of what we talk about ties in personal growth as well, which I think is selling. You're selling you. So, like, be the best you can be, not hide who you are and get people to believe you're somebody else. And what you're selling is, is like a manipulation kind of thing. It's more like just show up as you, care a lot, do the right thing, and things take care of themselves. So our company is all about helping to, help the contracting space create that atmosphere in their own business for their teams to help them grow predictably and, abundantly and things like that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it sounds like a good little ecosystem you guys have dialed in there with the residential and the commercial side of things. And Ryan, you spent a lot of time in the roofing space, didn't you?
Yeah, that was where this all got started, was in roofing. And I'd say that still holds the lion's share. Probably 50% of our customer base are contractors that are roofers. But we're really excited and motivated to just continue to expand out into all the trades. Because whether you're selling a service repair, a maintenance contract, a replacement, a new construction job, it's all the same experience essentially. And the salespeople, there's just little nuances that are unique, right? So,
sure.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have designed this series, which we've called Success in Sales. You've split it up into 3 episodes. All the leads you need. Episode 1, episode 2, closing happens before the close. Episode 3, riding the wave of production. So for you guys out there, you're tuning in today to episode 1. There will definitely stay plugged in, because the following episodes are designed in a way that they'll basically stem on from whatever you learn in this one. So we may as well jump into all the leads you need. I suppose this conversation, we're speaking with business owners, we're speaking with maybe the sales department, sales managers, that kind of thing. Is that right? Or are we speaking to the guys on the front line here? Is this like technicians as well?
Well, see, that's one of the things that I'm actually really passionate about. And I want to be really clear because there's this misconception in the industry, especially like as organizations get bigger, right? People feel like, okay, there's a sales team and there's a marketing team. And the marketing team is great and valuable, and you should have a marketing team if that makes sense to your organization. But what I hate to see is when the sales team stops taking responsibility for generating leads, right? Like that's a huge pain point for a lot of clients that we work with, is they have these sales professionals, frontline sales people that are just waiting for leads to come from the company. And that's just a recipe for disaster. So this is absolutely for business owners, sales managers, but it's also for frontline sales professionals, because the top performing sales professionals take full accountability and responsibility over their own lead funnel to make sure they're getting all the leads they need. So they always are doing enough appointments every week.
Man, this is close to home for me at the moment. I can tell you right now, there's very, very, very relevant conversations to my organization. In fact, I'm going to make everyone watch this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's like it's the beginning of the process, right? That's why I'm really excited. When me and Ryan were talking to you about this and like kind of the three parts of the sale, right? A
Mhm.
lot of people focus on the actual sale, but the top performing salespeople have the leads going into the sale, they do the sale, and then they ride the wave after, which we'll talk about later.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. We're working, obviously, we run a digital agency and we do a lot of lead generation. In truth, like a lot of the businesses don't have a lead problem. They've got like a conversion problem, and they lack that ability once they've got the lead to leverage it to its advantage, and to, I won't say squeeze the most out of them, but certainly like provide options. And I think sometimes the there's that churn and burn mentality. Very often, actually, in most cases, sadly, there's that whole churn and burn mentality with leads and new customers, which in most cases falls at the expense of their existing customers, which can be, have sort of a ripple effect in the space of, well, making your client feel valued by providing them, the ultimate solution. And then, of course, that has a ripple effect back down into the company turnover and profits, and customer experience and the whole shebang. So I'm pretty keen to dive into this one. So what are we going to discuss here? What are we going to be talking about in this episode?
Yeah, so the key part of this, we're going to talk about how you create a multi-pronged attack, right? Because a lot of people have one or two lead sources that work really well for them, right? And they kind of over rely on those and they don't diversify. So if something goes wrong or something's not working, and they're just kind of sitting there going, where are my leads? I'm definitely excited to talk to you more about the conversion and what to do with the leads. I think, like you said, there's a number of companies that have the leads and just don't treat those leads properly, and that's part of it. But if you have a balance, it's kind of like a balanced diet, right? If you have a balanced generation of leads coming from different sources and everything's smooth and predictable, that's the word Ryan loves a lot. Predictable, right? Predictable growth, predictable progress.
Mm-hmm.
When you have that system in place, it makes it easier, I think, to have the headspace to actually go and attack those leads and service them properly versus just kind of drinking from the fire hose and seeing what sticks.
Sure.
A lot of our clients that we've worked with have been like that. Like, oh, well, all this stuff's going on and we'll see kind of what happens. There's definitely a way to systematize and organize it so that as those leads are coming in, they're getting serviced properly. And then your company is getting maximum ROI, your customers are getting the best experience, and the sales professionals are doing the smoothest, most efficient at their job.
And I want to add something to Matt, if I could hop in, like, something you said earlier is sticking out to me. It's like your lead generation typically is going to require some form of marketing spend, right? So in the form of ads, obviously organic is going to help, and being ranked in top, first page Google, and branding and social organic posting, all that stuff. But like at the end of the day, if your sales team is relying just on their own leads, it costs more money to scale, right? So your customer acquisition costs, especially if they're not converting, is going to go higher. So you got to convert. But what makes it interesting is when a salesperson, so what that might be an indicator of is two things. One is the salespeople don't know how to prospect. And then two, they may have too many salespeople or too many people they're drunk on leads. They're just not really taking good care of the ones that are being provided to them. But I can tell you right now, like, if you look at the statistics of a self-generated lead, like a referral or an introduction, the likelihood of conversion is actually going to be greater than a lead generated by the company, because the salesperson's more in control of the process. So they're actually like, there's a lot of impact there. Think about it. So imagine if a sales guy has half the number of appointments generated by the company, but the other half he's generating his own to help him support his income goals. So now he's asking for referrals. The referral is going to have a better chance of closing. Now he gets another client from that referral, and then he's able to get another referral or an introduction or something in the neighborhood. And those are going to close at a higher rate. In fact, the ones who really are good end up saying, I don't need the company leads because I'm so good at generating my own. My point is, you combine that with adding a little bit more scarcity in the lead flow to more salespeople, and you have a salesperson who's going to better treat each lead. And now they're going to actually be focused, quick, speedy, more consultative, care, listen better, ask better questions, and treat that lead is with the amount of value that an owner thinks of it, versus kind of just saying, just get another one. They're just going to keep feeding me anyway, and something's going to work out, and I don't have to be as good.
Yeah, it's interesting. It sort of like plies into that I suppose mantra that we have in relation to qualification, lead qualification, because I mean we have a lot of clients, especially like our builders, clients that are builders and things like that. They could be booked out for 2 years. Like they don't have a problem with the leads, but what they're finding is they're just wasting so much of their time talking with like leads that are not qualified to have that conversation yet. And so from a marketing perspective, then the paradigm becomes, well, we're going to try and reduce your leads, but we're going to try and make the ones that you do get better qualified. So it becomes like it's a lead reduction strategy, to be honest, because you're trying to get people, you're trying to have less conversations with people. You're trying to like waste less of time, So it's an interesting paradigm shift.
Well, I think what's really important is wasting less drive time and appointment time.
Sure.
Right? Like people, I think a lot of sales professionals and people on the front end of the sales process don't do that qualification on those initial phone calls and that initial contact, right? Like when someone reaches out to the company or whatever, like that's when you can really start to find out, like, is this our ideal potential client? Do we really have the right service for them? And are they who we want to work with?
And a lot of that can be fueled from the right style of marketing too. Like I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, coming from, originally from Sydney, where like it could take you 3-4 hours to cross the city in peak hour. Like the last thing you want is to get a job booked in for a tap washer or something, across the other side of the city. It just doesn't make any sense. So like what you're saying is right, but I think a lot of that can be dialed in, from the marketing strategy as well. I mean, it's not an exact science, but you can certainly lend yourself towards it through, content, through where you place your ads, all that kind of stuff. So, and
where you put your energy, like where you,
sure,
who you're marketing to. I want to talk a little bit on this version or this episode about neighborhoods.
Sure.
It's one of the great things about the residential market, right? Is a lot of our clients and customers are focused in neighborhoods.
Sure.
So it's like these juicy little honeypots that we can focus our energy on, and we know that there's a certain level of income in that neighborhood, and there's a certain type of customer that lives there, and really focus that energy rather than blasting all of our marketing energy all over the place and just taking whatever comes in.
And you know what? That's the probably the biggest thing that we like implemented at the agency is that local marketing approach, because like we know, and in truth, most businesses when they come to us, that whole thing, they'll come to us, but they don't really know what they want. Like, oh, we want to be number one in Sydney or number one plumber in Melbourne. I'm like, you know, you don't. You've got 3 guys. If you were number one plumber in Melbourne, you wouldn't be able to service a fraction of it. Your name would be dragged through the mud, and you'd be out of business within a month. You can't. Like people don't really, they like the idea of something without really understanding the full complications and the, what it takes to be, that type of business. So, I mean, like that whole like neighborhood approach, local area approach is so powerful, and there's so many valuable like marketing resources that can, really help you plant your flag in that sort of place, like Google My Business, Google Maps. Google Ads, even like you can get as granular as targeting postcodes in Google Ads. We do it all the time. In fact, with our Google Ads clients, we only do postcode marketing these days because we just know they don't want to be getting leads from outside that area.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of companies have like a shotgun approach to marketing, right? And they just like spend the money and they shoot it out, and and they'll just take whatever comes in. And they're just happy that they're getting leads without thinking about, qualified lead versus just an average person who may not even really need their service.
Sure. So do you want to talk about these 3 elements of that effective marketing plan? I know you've jotted down here, you've got the game plan, the digital game, and the special ops. So I'd like to explore those a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the residential market, and really, I think this would apply in commercial as well, but there's kind of 3 different elements And a good way to think about it is like a chair, right? Or a stool, I guess, would probably have 3 legs. If you only have 1 or 2 legs on your stool, that stool's going to fall over, right? So you got to have all three so that's balanced. So you got your ground game, you got your digital game, and you got your special ops. So ground game is the unglamorous stuff, right? It's the stuff that we all know we should do, but some organizations really take it to heart and some organizations don't. Simple things, right? Like when you're producing a job that takes, a day or longer, do you have yard signs up?
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you have a physical presence at that job site? When people drive by, are your vehicles wrapped? Do you have signs? Do you have flyers out for the neighbors? Have you sent your sales guy knocking on the door of the 6 or 10 or 12 houses right near there? Hey, we're working with the Joneses over on 123 East Plum Street, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity if you needed any service as well, right? Like, it's not glamorous stuff, but it's stuff that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So in American football, right, we talk about like running the ball versus passing the ball. And running the ball is boring. You only get a couple yards at a time. Big tackle, you don't get very far. But if you're just always passing the ball all the time, then the defense is going to know what's coming, right? They're going to know that you're just going to pass all the time. So you got to mix in run, even if it doesn't necessarily get you as many direct results as you think. Which in our experience, actually it does, especially as everyone's moved to a more digital presence over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? A lot of those traditional ground game tactics are getting left behind, door knocking, flyers, things like that. So you almost even stand out more now as an organization when you actually have a physical presence and people can be just driving by and see your vehicles and see your signs.
Yeah.
So that's an important, it's kind of like eating your vegetables. I'm a big analogy guy, if you guys haven't figured that out. And so, that ground game is the basis for everything else in your marketing plan, for all the cool digital ads and all the Google stuff you're going to do and everything else that if you don't have we are contractors, right? We exist in the physical space. We do work on people's homes in the real world. So if we don't have some sort of marketing presence in the real world, we're really leaving meat on the bone. We're leaving possibility, Mm-hmm. You can't own a neighborhood if the neighbors don't even know who you are.
Sure. Yeah. And I've spoken about this a billion times, and I've actually done trainings and things on these in the past where we call it like the digital ecosystem, or it's in truth the marketing ecosystem, where in today's day and age, if you give someone a referral, are they going to call the number you've given them, or are they going to Google you? Like, there's that whole ecosystem that comes into play now, and people I think sometimes neglect the fact that like they all have an effect on each other, and it all has and we always say, well, okay, I'll make sure that you look professional when people Google you, right? Because it's going to happen at some stage or another. But like what you're saying is right as well. It's like, well, how do we get more people to Google us, right? Like if we're going to go and drop do a letterbox drop to 20 houses, 10 either side of the place we've just worked on, like we know they're going to Google us. Like, so you got to consider that whole ecosystem, right? And I think like I completely relate with what you're saying. Like that whole lumpy mail approach, like how hard is it for your technician to do, drop 10 flyers either side of the house he's been in? Like it might take him 5 minutes max, maybe he'll strike a conversation up with someone, who knows? But like, when you open your letterbox, what are you receiving these days? Bill, like it's just garbage. If you've got something useful and something like a nice package that you can present to someone. I don't know what your take is on this, but I'd love to hear it. But I just think there's so much opportunity there for people to do that, because we find in this day and age, like people could be working with a plumber for five years, on and off every other year, and if something happens, if that business is not front and present somehow, if they're not like on a fridge magnet, if they're not like, if there isn't a folder sitting in the office or something, like they're just going to go to Google. Like they don't always remember the name of the business. They might remember the experience, but like the alternative is to go filtering through their bank invoices and try and figure out who they paid, or they just jump on Google and find someone that's near. So Like, I'd love to hear what your take is on that and how you can sort of be front and present in that situation.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that's part of the ground game, right? Is, physical presence. I love the fridge magnet. I was literally going to say that until you did. So there's little knickknacks, right? Swag, we call it in the US. Things that you can leave with the customer, or value creation things, right? Like, hey, here's your checklist. If you like, let's say you paint someone's house, and then you leave a little checklist, ongoing yearly maintenance, cut the bushes back, power wash the house once a year, right? Like all these sorts of little things that you can leave once you've even already done the job, which we'll talk again more about in riding the wave. But getting in the door, yeah, like how hard is it to put a flyer together that gets someone's attention about a free inspection, right? Free inspections are one of the best things you can do in the ground game, and to get to that, you can leave flyers, you can leave packages. It doesn't cost that much to put together something, right, that makes you stand out, especially again, because most companies and organizations are getting away from physical stuff.
Sure.
And the digital game we'll talk about, I mean, it's crucial, especially, for anyone who wants to really grow their business in the modern age. But you can't go all one way and completely forget the other, right? You got to have something that sends them to the Google, like you said.
Exactly right. And it's incredible how many people, companies that we speak with, and we're essentially a digital marketing agency. But I say to people all the time, if something's working, don't stop doing it. I've had so many clients of ours, that have come from other agencies, and they're saying, oh, we were running newspaper ads and it was, working really well, but we went and worked at this agency and they said we need to be putting all that money into Google ads. So we did that. And now we have no work. We've had to let off 3 guys. And I was like, it's madness, you've got to put things in perspective. I mean, in truth, it should be, they can't really blame anyone but themselves for that sort of thing. You've just got to have a better understanding of your data, and you've got to be, make educated decisions. But it just blows me away how many people were willing to drop the axe on something that's working so well. We had a client yesterday who's dropped the axe on, his SEO campaign, probably our best performing client, SEO. He said, oh, we're just going to bring it all in house. And I'm like, okay, you might. Is this a cost saving exercise, or is this marketing suicide? And that's what I said to him in the email. I'm like, I don't mind if you got to bring it in house, it's fine. But this is your lead source for your business. But what are you actually throwing away here? Do you really understand that? So, I mean, you got to put these things into perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that whole and my experience is, and I'm sure you guys would probably have far more input into this than I would, but until what we're talking about here becomes part of the process for this job, the guys, until they actually have you done this? Have you done the letterbox job? Have you whatever? It'll never get done. You can sit there and tell them to do things until you're blue in the face. The reality is, until it becomes part of the process, it'll never happen.
What? Yeah, you got to create systems, right? Checklists, and there's got to be accountability. So if you're going to put signs up in the yard every time you book a job, then as a sales manager, you need to get pictures of those signs from your guys every time, right? You can't expect what you don't inspect. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the ground game, I think it's just something that's been lost, right? It's the essence of sales really is somebody going out there, grinding, finding a lead, and then turning it into something. And it's become a lot easier to find leads online, but there's still got to be that hunger and that desire to create their own momentum.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are, Ryan.
I love that. No, I think that's huge. And, it's something that owners, when they're working with us and their salespeople buy into this, they're really happy because their salespeople aren't just, lead babies, but it adds so much more horsepower to the existing marketing campaigns. They both beat off each other.
Yep.
Less pressure.
So that's the ground game, right? You got to have the ground game. Any organization that is getting away from traditional ground game tactics like newspaper, or what I used to do, actually, I ran a student painting company when I was 20 years old. And in my town, it's a little town, and they had these at all the diners and restaurants. They had this weekly like paper bulletin thing that went out, and it had like a crossword puzzle and some horoscopes and some stuff. And then on either side, on the left column and the right column on the edges, it had like local businesses, And so I got my name in there, and I had people texting me, "Hey, I'm at Sherry's Diner and just saw your picture in the ad, the paper ad." And right, it's like these are like real physical things you can do in the world that don't cost that much money. They're not glamorous, but we need to do them. We need to get them going to support the other two elements of your marketing plan, which is going to be digital game, special ops. Ryan, do you want to talk to digital game? I know that's definitely a strong point of yours.
Yeah, so it's something that we undervalue sometimes. Is like sharing social organic, right? So whether Instagram is becoming really popular with contractors who are doing great work and sharing it, adding music to it, making it fun. I mean, there's a company, Orca Asphalt Maintenance, some friends of mine that are out of Vancouver, and they make like parking lot painting stripes look fun. I'm like, why am I watching this? Like, I'm like watching them like do like, and it's just like, this is awesome. I'm like enjoying this, and it's just a simple, using the iPhone, making it fun. And I'm like, this is awesome. These guys they have like 13,000 followers on their Instagram channel. I'm like, holy moly. And then you have, and then you just have like LinkedIn, right? Especially if you're in B2B, that LinkedIn expert, like, hey, I'm an expert. I'm telling you what I think right now. I'm out here working, and you all professionals watching me right now on LinkedIn, you're hearing me demonstrate my expertise and, how you come across, how you write, your grammar, your picture, your video, whatever it may be. It can be direct and informative and educational and position you as an expert. And then you got Facebook, right? So you got like mom and grandma, and then you got, all these other friends, and you got Facebook that's kind of like a place where people can see you doing your thing. And when you look at it, you like LinkedIn can have up to 30,000, I think, before you have to get followed. I have like 10. Facebook, you get 5,000, and then you can't have to follow you, which I'm maxed out there. And then you have Instagram, which could be unlimited. And so you just think about these platforms, and then there's TikTok, which is like overwhelming because I can't add another thing to my repertoire. But
I'd love to see you do some.
Oh, Ryan's got moves.
Oh,
Ryan's
no doubt.
definitely got moves.
No doubt.
I just love seeing full-grown men, with their wives dance and their kids, like, and I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. No, it's like they're in the gym and they're like, let's do like push-ups and patty cake and do it at the same time with their shirts off. I'm like, what is going on? This is crazy. No, but yeah. So
we'll look forward to that, Ron.
Yeah, that's coming up.
But what Ryan's talking about is like a huge part of what we teach at STG is not just, normal, boring SEO, Google clicks, Google ads. There's a lot you can do with social media and with as people live more and more online, right? Pandemic accelerated it, sure, but like it was happening anyways. Like, one of the things that we really love are like neighborhood groups, right? So like Facebook, a lot of times will have neighborhood groups. So when someone is like, hey, I'm looking for a roofer, I'm looking for a plumber, and they'll go not just they'll not just go to their like Google, whatever, but they'll go to a local, the Cedar Crest Facebook group, and they'll say, hey guys, has anyone worked with a plumber lately? Right. And you want to be training your customers to, when they see that, not just post so their grandma and their friends can see, but in those other group interactions with strangers and people that they maybe don't know as well, but they share some sort of connection on social media. That's where you can really start to get a lot of traction, a lot of free leads.
Sure.
You're not paying.
Like interestingly, so much of what we teach complements you guys as well, I must say. And we put a slightly different spin on it, but I'll get to that in a sec. But what you're talking about there, I find, is what I call the modern day. It's like a modern day word of mouth, right? Because that whole conversation that people are having. I did this yesterday, right? I jumped onto our local Facebook group, like up here where I live, and I said, "Oh, can anyone recommend an throat specialist?" And within an hour, there was like 30 comments come back out. You got to go to this guy, got to go to this guy, got to go to this guy. And I was like, okay, cool. So, but of course, on the flip side of that, and in testament to what you were saying before, Chris, the first thing I did once they gave me that recommendation was I jumped online and Googled them. Yep. Right. So have that ecosystem dialed in. But like, again,
right. You have to have your website. You have to be ready for when they do Google you. But there's a lot of like evolving forms where you can get ahead of people. Like, do you guys have nextdoor.com in Australia?
I don't think so.
Oh,
maybe we do. I don't know.
You might have a similar service. It's really cool. It's all neighborhood based. You have to geolocate. You can only be part of whatever neighborhood you're in.
Okay.
And it's like a hypercharged version of that same thing. Of like everyone who lives in Canyon Creek is going to be in this next door group, and they'll be able to pass those leads around or pass information around.
Yeah. So we have friends of ours that are Romanian that we met in Florida, and we moved to Hawaii, and our
this sounds like a joke already.
Yeah, it sounds like a joke. And so they came out here, and one's a massage therapist, one's a cleaner. Okay, so but no, seriously, they ended up coming out to Hawaii. They're staying in our little guest house for a few months because they're friends and now they have a place. But what's amazing is, dude, the first week they got here, they got settled in. It's no big deal. Next week they're gone every day, and I'm like, you guys already started work? And they're like, yeah, we just went into Nextdoor and shared what we're doing, and on Facebook, just in the marketplace and stuff like, and just said we do cleaning services, and they have not stopped having work every single weekday, just doing cleaning. Obviously, they might be dirt cheap. I don't know what they're charging, whatever. Right. But the cool thing is just the digital game organically is powerful. So anyway,
arguably more powerful. In truth, and I mean, we deal with this a lot, obviously organic and paid, and that whole conversation around. I mean, it's no secret. Most people will skip past ads, and they'll go for the organic listings when you talk on platforms like Google, right? So in looping back to what what you guys were saying just now, Ryan, on that whole being present on social media, like. As I was saying to Chris, I know you dropped out for a second there, but like we have like a big thing that we like to focus on, and what, like, in truth, my most passionate thing with the businesses we work with is helping them tell their story. Because, and again, this is like, it's a really hard thing to communicate to businesses because they're so caught up in that whole churn and burn mentality with lead generation, and I want to run Google ads, and let's do this and let's do that. I'm like, that's great, we can do that, but if you want to stand out in a competitive landscape, get better at telling your story, because people are coming to you for information and you're not giving it to them. And like, it's that whole, it's this crazy thing. Like when you look at like the wins and the trust and the rapport that you can create through telling your story, and okay, fine. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like being on video. Whatever, like, get over it and just tell your story better. And I've said this a million times on the show as well, like the difference between like somebody talking to a client or one of their customers about the job they've just done, and they will sit there and they will do that all day long because they know it backwards. And you hold this little tiny device up in front of their face, and all of a sudden they clam up and they can't get the words out. And you're like, it's just a mindset process and something that gets better with practice.
Yeah.
Well, and when you share your story, it really not only brings people in, but it's also, again, going to increase your conversion rate.
And this is this is the thing, right? So when we talk, and this is one of the reasons why we do this, because when we're talking about improving our conversions, there's the things that we know, and the things that we know are, okay, like we can gauge through data how well a Google ad is converting, how well, to a degree, your SEO campaign is converting through Google Analytics goal setups and all that kind of stuff. But what you don't know is how much the content that lives on your website is building trust and rapport with potential customers, and the content that you're creating is building trust and rapport. So there come the point when they do want to engage you for something, you've already done the selling, the content, you've done the hard work, you've done the heavy lifting. And it's a really hard thing to like identify and put a number on, like from a statistical perspective. But we know that it works, and it works unbelievably well with commercial-based customers who we can guarantee their clients are not looking for them on Google. It's relationship-based, but they're looking for evidence. They're looking for proof that they can do something similar to what they're looking to have done, right? So,
well, yeah, I was gonna say like a couple of things are coming to my mind is like, facts tell, stories sell. So like,
sure.
hey, we did look at facts tell, stories sell, and I think that when you share it everywhere you can, it's powerful. But like, I was this takes me back to when I was teaching like how to get the right clients to buy, and then also get there's two things that happen whenever you tell stories is not only are people going to buy from you on like on paper, but they're also going to buy into you and work and be a good advocate, a partner, or an employee. So think about like how powerful it is when someone's buying into your brand or buying into your company. So it's look, when you say here's what we do, you're gonna get clients because we're an electrician and we have solve electrical problems. Great. Then we go how we do it, which is going to differentiate you a little bit more because you're going to show here's what we do that's differently. Here's what makes us, here's how we do it. And so look how good we are. How we're experts now. We have more expertise than other people. So you should hire us, right? And then you have the third level, which is the why you do it, right? So when you have the why you do it, now it starts to get into like the soul level, the bone level. Like, okay, these people are impacting community, these people are giving back or whatever it is. So then that's the third level of differentiation. So you are in business because of what you do. Great. You're probably competitive and doing okay because you talk about how you do it and you're really good. What's going to make you a market leader in your own eyes or whatever you consider to be a market leader and it's going to get the right clients to buy from you and the right talent to join you and the right partners to refer to you is going to be the why you do it, which comes through storytelling.
Yeah. Now here's the caveat, right? We go through in our technical college, our training, our TAFE as we call it over here, whatever, and we learn how to swing hammers and we learn how to pitch roofs and we learn how to, you know, install switchboards. But at no point do they really teach you the whole concept of storytelling. So it's not comfortable for people. It's not comfortable for guys to know this because they've never been taught it. It's not something they teach at college. It's something you have to go out and learn, and you've got to physically invest in. So the caveat there is, well, I didn't get into business to become a storyteller. I didn't get into business to to become a video master. And this is the objections we get all the time. And my response to it every time is, if you want the result, you do the thing. And as your business develops and you grow, your role within your business will change significantly, but sometimes from month to month. 1 month you might be the HR guy, the next month you might be the sales specialist, like whatever it is, right? So it's never a conversation. It should never be a conversation. And let me, for any of you guys out there that are having this objection right now, and you're saying this, well, I'm not going to do that because I don't like being in front of a camera. It doesn't matter what you like doing. It's about the outcome you want. And like the more all you're doing is you're making these excuses which are holding you back from getting the thing. So
you signed up to be an entrepreneur and a business owner. You're not just, if you like having no money and being stressed because, you like that. And this is perfect for you, right? And I say that obviously with a lot of implication, but you're right. It's not about what you like to do. What do I got to do? I got to evolve. And if I'm a business owner, I have more responsibility and a risk I'm placing on my family and the people that work for us. I got to evolve. And that's why we're so passionate about selling, because if you could sell yourself and you're sold on yourself and other people are sold on you, then marketing becomes easier. Everything becomes easier because you're 100%. Bought in.
Yeah. Well, and growth is uncomfortable, right? So if you're somewhere and you're comfortable and you want to get somewhere else that's bigger and better and more successful, you have to go through uncomfortable to get there, right?
Sure.
So if you're that guy or is sitting there and going, "Oh, I don't want to talk about myself. I don't share with customers," then, you're putting artificial constraints and you're holding yourself in place. You're stopping your growth,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I mean, like you're not bought into yourself yet. So then why would anybody else want to buy into your video? You can't even like take a second to have your own recording because you don't like how you come across. Like, think about athletes, right? I mean, let's look at baseball because I know at least Australians can appreciate some baseball.
Oh, one of them anyway.
One of them. And our boy Vladdy Daddy Jr. over in Toronto. I mean, you got to know that guy has been looking at film of his swing a long time. He's got to be. And you look at Tom Brady and American football, which is about to be a retired man. So we're gonna have to use another example here soon. But these guys they're painfully looking at video, saying, "Oh, that was awful. I know exactly what I did wrong." And I don't know about you, but like, if you go ahead and do a couple social media posts and you see yourself a couple years later, like, wow, hopefully you're saying, look how much farther I've come.
Sure.
Because you've taken the time to look at it. So anyway, this could go on. We got a lot of value here. I think we shared a lot of value in terms of the digital game.
oh, I just want to tie up this thought about something we talk about a lot at STG is pride and excellence. Right? If you have pride in yourself, it's easy to tell your story. If you have pride in your company, it's easy to tell your story. And that comes from, pursuit of excellence and really holding yourself to a high standard.
Sure. And conviction, I guess, like like I said, you can sit there and have this conversation with your clients all day. There's no reason why you can't, hold up a phone and have the same conversation with the phone. It's just, it's just something different. It's a skill that you develop and you get better at it. You do. Anyway, let's jump into special ops.
Okay. Special ops. This is a fun one. So we talked ground game, right? It's the unglamorous, the physical presence. You got to get out there. You got to do it some which way or another. Talked about the digital game, organic versus, more structured, SEO, those sorts of things. Special ops is kind of everything else. It's one-off events. It's referral programs. It's, one thing that's great, trade shows and home shows. Right? That would be something we'd classify in the special ops category. Are you going to do a trade show every single weekend? Probably not, right? That would get exhausting. You don't have the resources at the time to do that. No one does. But, a couple well-timed trade shows or home shows at the right times in your season, generate a bunch of leads, targeted referral programs or mailers that you do at certain times of the year, right? Special ops is kind of the sprinkles on top of the cake. You got to have your ground game to push things forward. You got to have your digital game because that's where a lot of stuff's happening these days. And special ops is like filling in the gaps, big opportunities, right? Like, honestly, Matt, for us being on this podcast is a special ops marketing, right? Like, are we going to do a podcast with you every week? Probably not. Although you're very funny. I'm having a blast. But like, realistically, right? These are the sorts of things you got to get out there. You got to do one-off things that are going to create results that supplement, right? That supplement everything else you're doing.
Sure. It's like breaking the monotony, really, isn't it? It's like just adding, I know what you're saying. But I mean, a lot of guys out there be going, okay, well, I'm a plumber. What am I going to do? I'm not going to, like, what's a special op thing that I can do? I'm a plumber.
Sure. So
I'm not going to hold an event.
Right. If you're a plumber in a town, you could hold an event that you would never do, right? You could go to the local farmer's market one Saturday and just hand out business cards or hand out little fridge magnets. Right. And be like, hey guys, I know you probably don't need a plumber today, but put this on your fridge and call me when the sink goes out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, those are special ops things. And if you're not doing any special ops things ever, then again, you're limiting yourself. You got to create.
One that comes to mind is like, it's just mind blowing is like when I started in roofing, I was part of a large organization doing probably, 25 million, and at the time, and by the time I left, the company had grown to about 50 over a 4.5 year span. So that was a lot of growth at that size. And you can only imagine when a company's called XYZ Roofing, you're going to get a lot of calls. But the good thing is they were a commercial roofer, and so every single day they would get homeowners calling them. Every single day. And then every single day, they referred them to Tiger Team Roofing. And Tiger Team Roofing was just hanging out, just taking all the brand momentum of a $50 million a year company and just getting it thrown right in their laps. It would be like an STG. It would be like us. If we had the largest general coaching business in the world that was just pouring this thing, we don't even touch sales training. We're just going to hand them to you. And like, we're just by the daily, we're just getting leads. Like that would just be a dream, right? So imagine if you're like, we're a residential electrical contractor, right? So imagine you have, and this isn't in every market, but maybe it is. What's a partner that's likely generating leads that they're just not going to be able to do, and they don't want to do, they just can't do it, and there's something, and you can just create a relationship where they're feeding you those leads and you return the favor.
Yeah.
So maybe like you're residential and you don't do commercial, and they do commercial, they don't do residential. I could promise you that not everybody has, if they're an HVAC company, they're not like, I'm Paradigm Commercial HVAC. They're just like, dude, I'm Paradigm HVAC. That's the name of their company, more than likely, right? So if they're getting leads, they have a strong brand, their trucks are all over town, and some of the homeowners are calling in on them. Who are they going to send those to?
Yeah.
So just something to think about, as your guys are seeing those, organizations invest so much of their own brand into something. How can we partner so that their marketing budget becomes part of your marketing budget inadvertently, right?
This is going back 5 or 6 years, maybe more. We helped a client of ours down in Melbourne. They're a plumbing company, and they wanted to basically expand the business. But they wanted to expand their business, but they didn't necessarily want to expand their offerings. Right? They were pretty staunch with what they were doing. They did a lot of like leak detection. They did block drains, pipe relining. They're pretty like set with that. But they just wanted to basically broaden their reach. We had a electrical client down in Victoria. I still do actually. Same situation. Pretty similar style of business owners, pretty similar types of good guys, like good fun people. Same sort of style business. The electricians had a few more guys, a couple more office staff. But anyway, I basically made this introduction to them. I said, listen, you guys want to grow your database. You guys want to grow your database. You can do this the hard way. We're generating your own leads, or you can form some sort of, referral arrangement between you, and you could essentially, double your database overnight by just, referring each other, as your trusted electrician, my trusted plumber, so on and so forth. And they did it. And the results were absolutely astounding. Like we set together, we put out this email campaign for both of them. We launched this campaign. Funnily, I mean, not surprisingly, some of them had the same contacts, which actually was quite well received. But they were both booked out within literally a day for weeks. Like it was a crazy way to compound, and it came from just what you're saying, Ryan. It was just a matter of getting out there, taking your blinkers off, probably putting your ego aside for a second, and actually, getting out there and building a relationship, and introducing yourself to someone, and laying your cards on the table and saying, "This is what I want to do," and it had a formidable result for them. So it's creative, like you talk about black ops, Chris. We had like a guy on the podcast, an American fellow called Dave Gatto, back in 2018, episode 146. And his black ops strategy, right? Like he was selling home services at the time. He's not doing that anymore. But they would do like things like painting, and they put fencing up, and they do all that kind of stuff, right? His black ops strategy was he would go around to real estate agents. He'd go to what's the big shop you guys have? Walmart. He'd go to Walmart. He'd buy like a little mini Tonka truck things, like toy trucks with like little tipper trucks. Buy a bunch of candy. He'd go around to real estate agents. He'd walk in there. He'd dump this truck on their coffee table or in their waiting room. He'd fill it with candy, and he'd walk out without talking to anyone. And then he'd come back in like 2 weeks' time, and he'd fill the candy up, and he'd walk out. And then he'd come back, and like a week later, and he'd go fill the candy. And the people would be like, "Excuse me, this is great, but who are you and what do you do?" He'd be like, let me tell you. And so he built this relationship with these real estate agents who just started throwing work at him just through these little toy trucks he bought at Walmart and the candy that he would go around and would constantly top up. And I just thought, this is just genius. Like it's just so not obvious, you know? And he might have, I think he had like little business cards eventually on the second time he'd leave there. And this is great.
And the relationships, right? That's definitely special ops.
Yeah.
You know, that's not something that you can just put money into and get a bunch of Google clicks, right? Like you have to put time, you have to put energy. But whatever industry or trade you're in, you're going to have people that can refer you business. I was going to bring up the real estate agents. That's a great one. If you're a residential contractor, or even if you're a commercial contractor and commercial real estate agents, right? It's like those guys are on properties. They need someone to get a roof done. They need someone for electrician. Or, you know, if you're a painter and you partner with a siding company, right? And the siding company needs someone to paint all their stuff. I mean, it's like there's so many symbiotic opportunities that you just have to open your mind. Or like electricians and solar. So like solar, right?
Massive.
You know, there's like installing the solar panels and then there's plugging in the wires. If you're an electrician, you can get a ton of work from solar companies that need electricians to plug things in, you know?
Yeah.
So putting that energy in and opening yourself up to those relationships are exactly what we're talking about with special ops. Like what are creative different things you can do to be sending leads down that funnel? And for any like frontline sales professionals that are like still kind of drunk off leads from the company, you're really missing opportunities. You know, if you're waiting on leads from the company that they generate online, you're missing all these real world opportunities for relationships to be sending you leads.
Love it. All right. So for you listeners and viewers out there, if you want to get more information on, or you want to get in contact with Ryan or Chris, head across to salestransformationgroup.com. Now they've got a program. It's great. You can register for that. I'm trying to generate as much leads and interest for these guys over in Australia and New Zealand, just because they've threatened to, if we can generate enough interest, they'll put some full-time technicians people on over here to service the support side of things. But it is a program anyway, right? Like a lot of it's delivered online. Is that right?
Yeah, we have an online course platform, which we spent a ton of time just building, structuring it. It's not like a typical sales training platform where they just like throw a smorgasbord of like videos into something, and you're like, all right, I'll just pick this today, and then maybe that tomorrow. We have like a very purposefully created structure to help you grow your sales organization and to impact these children. So anyway, that's built online. Chris actually came last year and to my house, and while he was on vacation, and we recorded the training together, which was super cool.
Hell of a vacation. I bet your wife was thrilled with that.
Oh yeah, we spent like 3 weeks in Maui, and spent probably 4 or 5 days over at Ryan's house. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And then we do group coaching. So we have group coaching for sales leaders every week, and then we have a group coaching with Chris every 2 weeks. Hopefully, I can get him to weekly eventually. I know he's got a business on, but and then we have lastly we do one-on-one support. So if you actually want like personal hand-holding to guide you and coach you and consult you throughout the journey together, that's where if we can get enough tradies, enough tradies over there, we'll staff we'll staff an STG expert who can join our vision and help serve you guys. So anyway, all that to say that's kind of how it works with us.
Well, the cool part about our platform is whether you're commercial, residential, a little bit of both, insurance, retail, whatever, we've got a kind of a range of products that serve all sales professionals in the contracting industry.
Sure. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to have links to everything in the show notes. So if you guys out there that are listening or watching this, head across to thesiteshed.com, search for this podcast. Anyway, you search for this podcast, you'll see it'll be one of the most recent ones, and there'll be resources and links to everything the guys are doing there. And we'll also be promoting these episodes out on Facebook. So if you're in the Facebook if you're on Facebook, head across to the page. You'll see the podcast go live there. And if you're in our group, head across there as well. Ryan, you're in that group anyway, right? I'm pretty sure you are. Yeah. So you can be part of the conversation over there. We're going to wrap this one up, and we're going to come back with the second episode, which is called Closing Happens Before the Close. Guys, thank you for your time. We look forward to speaking to you in the following episode. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Site Shed podcast. Once again, if you would like to claim a free $5,500 business website, then head across to tradie.wiki/free. Of course, there is a catch, but there is a very good chance that you will qualify for that. So please head across there, complete the form, and we look forward to speaking to you over at Tradie Web Guys shortly.